All right, here we go.
We are live.
All right, thank you. Okay. Hopefully everybody enjoyed lunch. The R&R is usually a pretty good choice. So before we jump into more projects that are only for Habitat Council, I'll just mention, so we were out of all of the projects we reviewed this morning. Now is our time to discuss any questions anybody had. Because what we'll do is, if there's at the end of any discussion or questions or anybody wanting to make any adjustments, we'll make one motion to basically approve all those projects, excluding anything that anybody would want to exclude or change. So with that, is there any discussion from council, the council members, on any of those projects that we saw this morning?
So I'll restate my comment earlier. I thought the projects are good. However, and I see we have another, aquatic habitat and operation maintenance request coming up. Just put them all in the same damn place, please. I've been saying this for years, but if we're going to talk about, WMA maintenance and habitat operations, let's make sure that they're all held at the same meeting. I think I've been saying that for several years, but the rest of the project I thought were really, really good projects. So.
Okay, so noted. Any other comments, questions about any of those projects? I didn't see any duck check marks on any of those. I was looking for them, but
We'll just
maybe
throw
there was.
them all on Steve's
There you
plate
go.
since he's not here.
Yes.
He's not here. I'm hoping to see.
Can I make one other just comment that
Sure.
we're, I think, way overdrawn on Blue Ribbon Fisheries requests this year, and whatever we can do to phase those projects out, or consider more heavily in WRI and Habitat Council, I think the better off we'll be.
Okay. So what we'll do at that final meeting, where we go over the budgets, Allison will have a spreadsheet that shows where everything's at, and that will be your opportunity to basically say, collectively, let's phase this, let's cut it down to this, and then get to the line that we need to be at. So I agree. There will be a lot of that going on.
So now may not be the perfect time to say it, but
You're probably right, Randy. But go ahead.
Yeah, with me. I really like the East Bear Lake project. I'm just throwing it out there. Really like that. I do wish the cattle had been addressed, because I know that's an issue up there. Not super familiar with that area, but I'm familiar with it. But I like that project a lot.
Yeah, thanks, Randy. That project up there, that's the last stream improvement that we need to complete all of the Bonneville work, the connectivity to Bear Lake. And like they said earlier, the increase in Bonneville natural recruitment up there has gone up probably 50% over the last 20 years. So, it's a huge win for us, because it's a cost savings on the hind end, and I think the fishery is in better shape because of it. But I do wish, and I talked to TU afterwards, and just encourage them to really look at grazing more, actually say it more strenuously, I guess, in their proposal, that they're going to address it. Otherwise, all the habitat work's going to not hold up.
One of the things I really liked about that project was you had this substantial aquatics component with a fairly substantial upland, big game component, kind of a larger view, larger vision of bringing a project together, which I like to see personally, and helps sell it for both sides of the fence, I guess, to make it go. So I really like that. Any other comments or questions about any of those projects?
I guess I'll say one more thing on that project. I want it to be funded. But TU did get a bunch of money through the BIL program, through Fish Passage, and I saw some of that money in there, not as much as I'd hoped, and I was really hoping to see a little bit more of that Fish Passage money for this project, because the money was geared towards Bear River projects.
Cool. I see Chris taking a note on that one. Okay. Sure, go ahead, Shane. Well, and I think moving forward from the regional perspective, we can ask the region to consider that in the future phases. And I think that will be of benefit. I agree. So any other comments on just positive feedback about some of those projects? I thought we saw some great projects. Some stuff I really liked. Strawberry River project. Just any of those reservoir habitat projects, I love those. I don't know, that seemed like they were very effective, but any other things what did you see that you liked?
And I forget the number, but the Price River project, I thought was a really cool one too. I like that. I thought it combined, not as much as the Bear Lake one, but it had those other elements of restoring that riparian areas, which was, I'd like to see that.
Yeah, it was good to see folks pulling in other funding sources, even from Bass Pro Shops. Good job, Clint. So, okay. With that, does anybody want to push forward a motion to approve the first set of projects from this morning for Habitat Council side of things? Okay, we've got a motion from Blake to approve. Got a second from Randy. All in favor, say aye. Okay. I don't see that Heather's on this line yet. Yeah. Can you IM her the link really quick? Thanks. Okay. Motion passes. Okay, sorry, just write this down here really quick. Motion from Blake, second from Randy. All right. The next piece of business, we have to approve our minutes from our last meeting, which include all of our voting items. So if you thought of anything that you thought needed to change or bring that back up, do we have an emotion to, not an emotion, but a motion to approve the last meeting's minutes?
I move to approve the minutes.
Okay. Okay, got a motion from Drew, a second from Angie. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed, say no. All right. See Heather's online. Feel free to speak up whenever you want to, Heather. We got a much smaller group now, so just jump in whenever you feel like you need to.
Thanks. Apologies. I thought we were starting at 1. I'm sorry for being late.
No problem. No problem. Okay. We're going to move on. Daniel, did I forget anything? No. Okay. So the first item of business, and you're going to see a bunch of these for lots of reasons, but we're just going to jump into this. We're going to review a habitat management plan, the South Sanpete Wildlife Management Area Habitat Management Plan. Robbie's here from the Central Region to talk about this, and you're good to go. Make sure that mic's turned on.
All right, glad to be here. Robbie Edgel, Habitat Restoration Biologist for the Central Region. And this is a plan that was actually already existed, but we have done a bunch of revisions to it and really spent a lot of time revising the access management plan in particular. Next slide. So this is South Sanpete Valley habitat management plan, and so it includes 10 WMAs, and stretching from the White Hill WMA on the north, just north of Ephraim, down to Willow Creek, just south of Mayfield. So we have a lot of properties along the foothills, along the Manti there, and really the goal of those properties was to preserve that land for mule deer, especially mule deer winter range, but it also benefits a large range of species. Next slide. So, yeah, we have elk, we have deer, we have upland game, some sensitive species as well on our properties. Next slide. Yeah, they're really amazing properties, and it just speaks so much to the foresight of people who came a long time before us who bought these lands to prevent them from being developed. And so this management plan really helps us to ensure that these properties are being managed in a way that maximizes wildlife values that we want to gain from these properties. Next slide. Yeah, you can keep going through there. So, yeah, as I said, they're mostly along the foothills, so juniper, sagebrush zone mostly, some oak brush, and some of the higher elevations. So it's mostly your transition and winter range. Next slide. Here's just some range trend photos. So here's a long time ago, 2002, and now looking at 2024, 1989, and 2022. So there's been some changes to the properties over time. We've done a lot of habitat treatment work, so thinning out of juniper on those properties, getting some of the sagebrush back, and also changing our management of those properties to get, you see, a little more diversity of species. Next slide. So in these plans, we need to involve the communities, and we have, before, when the first plan was developed about 20 years ago, there was a big community engagement, and then this time as well, we held multiple meetings with local user groups. Next slide. So yeah, the plan describes the properties and it states the goals that we have for the properties. This is a picture of our 12-mile WMA recently, and I want to throw that in there. We're doing a bull hog, and you can kind of see the thin trees here that all along this bench. So it's a large 1,000-acre project that we're really excited about. Next slide. So yeah, we've been doing a lot of work on these properties over the years. You drive along Highway 89 there, and you look up on the mountain, you'll see a lot of treatments. Also, every year we have a weed crew that we hire that you guys fund through our management, or our WMA management proposal. And we keep our weeds under control. And most recently, more and more increasingly, we're having issues with user-created trails. Mountain biking is becoming a lot more popular, and so that's something that we're trying to address in this plan. Next. So the primary objective, we're working with this plan is conducive with other management plans in the WAP. Next slide. The primary goals of this plan and these properties is to preserve, enhance, and protect big game winter range and habitat for wildlife, and also to reduce the pressure on nearby farmland. Next slide. So yeah, as I mentioned, we've done a lot of pinyon and juniper work. We've also done a lot of plantings, sagebrush seedlings on our Black Hill WMA. That's what you see in that picture there. Next slide. Yeah, there's so some of the strategies that we're trying to do is reduce the effects of unauthorized roads and trails, install a winter closure that's consistent across all of our WMAs, and to, of course, deal with natural disasters like fire, and also have a good grazing plan that is helpful. Next. So that's the broader plan. We updated the old plan to the new plan and have new information in there. And then, like I said, the biggest change to this plan is the access management plan. Next slide. Yeah. So the purpose is to just provide access, but that is responsible and doesn't take away from the value of those properties. And we do see a lot of vandalism on these properties, especially they're so close to town. And so there's a lot of issues. And as we see San Pete Valley just growing, we anticipate the problems to just get worse. So we're trying to really set a precedent moving forward. Next. So as part of this new access management plan, we held several meetings at our Great Basin Research Center in Ephraim. It involved mountain bike users, dirt bike users, horseback riding groups, just members from the public. We had the county roads and trails representative there. And then I also presented the plan to the San Pete County Commission on June of 2023. And through this process, we'll be presenting to the RAC, and it's on RDCC right now. So we're doing our best to gather public input on what they'd like to see. Next. And this is what we came away with. So when we first met with these groups, there was a lot of trails and user-created trails and even pre-approved trails that we felt there was too many. And so we came into this process wanting to close down most of the trails on these properties and some of the roads. And through we had a very active and vocal user recreation group. And we really feel like we gave a lot in this plan, and so you see there all of the trails on our Black Hill WMA. We found that if we make official the trails, name them, and we give them animal names, so it makes people think that, remember, this is a wildlife management area. But we find that it's a good way to go so that you're not always fighting them, that they become, instead of fighting us, they become have ownership in the trails and help make sure that user created trails aren't added to the trail system. So we feel like we came up with a really generous proposal where we kept most of the main trails. We wanted to reduce some of the roads, and then the biggest thing is to get a winter closure established on this WMA that didn't have one, to be consistent with our other WMAs in the plan. So this is for Black Hill. And we are going to continue to work with the county. There has been some concern about road closures, and we'll continue to work with them to make sure that we get to a place that everyone can agree with. Next slide. This just shows so I'll just go quickly through the rest of these, but this is our White Hill WMA. Go to the next. Our Black Hill WMA, and so the dark lines show and this is our name trail. The dark lines show our roads. We have a horse-only trail, and the white dashed is single track, which is motorcycle and mountain bike. Next slide. And that just shows our name trails. Next. And then this is our winter closure. We're hoping to close most of the property except for one county road that runs through the middle of the property. And that really will be a huge win to get people off of the property during the highest use by mule deer. Next. Go ahead, next. So yeah, there's about 10 properties on there, 10 access management maps that we've shared with you guys to look through if you're curious. But yeah, we feel good about where it's at, and we're hopefully it'll go through the approval process. Next. Thank you. And any questions?
Let's talk e-bikes.
Yeah.
So I was in a BLM meeting yesterday, and I'm really starting to see the feds open up mountain bike only trails to class 1 e-bikes. It sounds like on this one, they're motorcycle trails anyways, right?
on the one property on Black Hill. And help me out, Mark, if I'm wrong, but
Unfortunately, there is some established or motorcycle trails that we really couldn't get rid of. We'd like to, but they've been there for 25 years. So
yeah, so they'll be open to e-bikes too. Yeah.
So, I mean, I think it's just something to consider. I think the tide is changing with e-bikes. Just talking specifically Class 1 e-bike, which is basically the least aggressive e-bike, no throttles, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe this was something we should have talked about with Timpanogos last time, but I think we're kind of getting to the point where the mountain bike only routes, I think we need to start considering letting Class 1 e-bikes on them as well.
if we get any enforcement of any kind of e-bike thing, I'd be all in favor.
Yeah,
There's no e-bike period, but technically not class ones are legal on those days.
But we'll say that,
Sign it that way, I just want to sign it.
yeah, technically Class 1 e-bikes are legal on trails. But most of the e-bikes that are sold out there now are above Class 1. Are throttled or are just a full-on electric motorcycle. And those are not allowed, yeah.
yeah. And I guess last thing I'll say is we're getting so much pressures from all different groups to use these properties. So it's just so important to have our sportsman groups, I think, aware and help support our efforts to keep these for the use that they're intended for wildlife. So, but yeah, thank you.
I'm just gonna have to chime in along the lines of what you're just saying. We can't rewind the clock. Like I said, if their trail's been there for 25 years, but there's gotta be a line drawn in the sand. Especially as the urban areas expand to get closer to other WMAs, there just has to be a hard no.
Yeah.
I mean, it's, and I know the compromises, I'm not criticizing you or your plan, but some of those WMAs are covered in trails. That's just not the purpose of these properties. We have to stop it on the other ones. We're throwing away these ones we already have to recreational properties. We need to make certain we take a very hard stand on the other ones so they don't become these Timpanogoses and the North Slope, was that the one?
Black Hills, yeah.
So,
Yeah, I don't think we disagree with that, Randy, at all. I think our staff, both where this is an acute issue in our northern region and central region specifically, are addressing this head on as best we can.
I think letting your representatives and county commissioners know that because they're just hearing from one constituency, so if they start hearing from the other, then it's going to go a long way, I think.
Yeah, and I think we're doing a good job of being fair, and we have been able to make a lot of positive adjustments, but we're trying to be reasonable as well, and that's in the eye of the beholder, right? But
but that gets to why you don't, on the other WMAs, they're starting to get exposed to pressure.
Well-
That's why you don't let those trails get established.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's
Then
what's
you
great
don't
about
have a
this plan
compromise to
is that exactly, is we're getting ahead of that, and
right.
so we can hold the line here, hopefully. So,
Yeah, and it's important for everyone to know here that those are the discussions that we have statewide with all of our management teams and regions, that everybody is queued up, that this is an issue, and that everybody needs to be working and focused on this for our WMAs. So, agreed, essentially. Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Robbie on this? Okay, great plan, great. I think we're making strides to protect these properties, and appreciate the work that's gone into this. So,
problem.
thanks.
Okay, thanks, guys.
Danny, do we have a deadline of when we want any comments or edits back on this from the council?
2 weeks. Okay. All right. Okay, we're gonna move into proposals now, unless I've forgotten something. Daniel, I'm gonna look over to you guys because it happens. All right, let's push through these other projects. We're going to start up again with Northeast Region, project number 7387, Northeast Region Aquatic Operation and Maintenance, fiscal year 2026. We have one of our newest aquatic managers with us today. Natalie,
You're
go
gonna say
ahead.
newest overall, and I was like, nope. Hello, I'm Natalie Boren, Northeastern Region Aquatic Manager. And I will start off by saying, as much as Drew likes to not hear this one, I will respectfully remind him that this is what he told me to do 4 years ago, and this is why it is broken out. This project actually has nothing to do with WMA maintenance, except for the people who do the work are shared between the two. So there is a presentation on here, if you don't mind uploading that. I would love to have a line item in just the budget where I didn't have to come. I love seeing you guys, though, so this is a great excuse.
When we love having you here, so just keep
Okay,
coming here.
I'll keep presenting this. All right, so this is the project that we use to help complete the operation and maintenance of all things that are not on WMA lands within the Northeast region. So we've invested heavily in infrastructure. Here's kind of this is the most ideal screen that we own. This is the fish screen that we created below Red Fleet Reservoir to prevent escapement into critical habitat for endangered fish. This is the temporary starvation screen, or what is left of it, after almost 9 years of use. So it's since been repaired, but the people that we pay are in this picture to help me repair these things. So next. Really quick over the project information. This covers maintenance of fish screens. This moves the boat dock up at Big Sandwash Reservoir. This moves it up and down. This pays for repairs. An example, just this spring we rolled up there and there was a big broken weld, and there was also 4 of the Trex boards just sliced in half. So that pays for that. We operate a Pelican sediment catch basin to try to keep the sediment from going into Pelican Lake. We also assist wherever we can with the Forest Service activities up on lower Stillwater ponds, which we also have a fishing pier that we've moved there. And we have a new Roosevelt community fishery that we help maintain. This project, as I talked about before, is coupled with Pat's WMA maintenance project, and it's project 7556. So this person works on both of those things combined. With that one, we work on Diamond Mountain fencing, so if we do get that pipe fence up on Diamond Mountain, we may be able to reduce some of the costs for this person, because they spend 2 to 3 weeks up there every spring repairing fence. We maintain Old Fort Ponds WMA. We do Little Montez Fishing Pier, all the aquatic restrooms in the region, Matt Warner, Little Montez, Calder, Big Sandwash, and then additional tasks for this person include angler access sign installations and easements along the Duchesne River. So we are very good at keeping them very busy if we get this funding, and it has proven to be so helpful over the last 5 years. Next slide. Again, just some of the pictures I talked about. These are all issues that we face from time to time, and luckily we have a person that can help us with that. So the biologists can still stay biologists, and the maintenance people can take care of that. Next slide. Again, some more of our structures. If you haven't seen it yet, this is the new Roosevelt Community Fishing Pond. It's small, but it turned out pretty cool. And another instance of stuff that breaks. This is the end of the starvation fishing pier, which we had to refabricate and rebuild that entire joint this winter. So again, that maintenance money and this pot of money pays for stuff like that, so we can keep them functioning for our public and safe. Safety is the biggest thing, I think. Next. So just a quick budget overview here. We're just asking for $20,500 personal services. We did ask for a little bit increase in motor pool costs just because they are increasing so much. Materials and supplies. And that's pretty much it. Just to reiterate, we do love to keep things safe. We need to keep things functional for our public, and this project, 4 or 5 years or 6 years now, has kept those things going. So any questions about that?
Back on the Matt Warner, the the aerator that you guys were putting in on that,
Mhm.
there was a seasonal cost associated with that for annual maintenance. Does it belong in this budget? I mean, are you guys using this person to look at the Calder Reservoir? Aerator.
We could be using that person, so yes, we could put it in with this, the personal services
I mean,
for
maybe
that.
it's okay for year one, but I'm just wondering if that's an ongoing maintenance need, it should probably fold into this.
Yeah, I agree, we could do that.
Any other thoughts on that one?
Natalie,
Yes,
remind me where we're at with the starvation screen. There's a project proposal or a grant agreement.
10-year project, I love it. So, we finally have all the paperwork in place. Trina has the fully executed MOU in her hands. So we have a carryover request for the funding that was set aside for this fiscal year. We have a, please move that to next fiscal year. We have the BOR Force account ready to put in the footers starting in July. And then I will be putting out the requisition towards the end of this fiscal year to have someone come and install all the screens that we have already fabricated. So we're this close. And I can't wait to rip that fence out that's been there for 9 years. We're close. Any other questions?
Do we have a motion on this one? Okay. All right, got a motion from Tyler, a second from Blake. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed, say no. Okay, motion passes.
I'll be doing the next one too, just so you know.
Okay, 7485 Old Fort Pond Well Pump Power Supply. Go ahead.
There should be a PowerPoint with this one as well. So this one belongs to our new reservoir biologist, Josue Hernandez, but he's down in the Cruise Conversations trainings today. So I'll take over this one since I have a little bit of history with it. Basically what we are doing is we have a well that has been installed. You can go to the next one. I guess I should follow his actual PowerPoint instead of just go random here. We talked about community fisheries this morning. They're an integral part to our community, and this is no exception. This place gets so much use. We open it seasonally. We try to maintain the water as best we can, but it's all coming from irrigation shares. So we have some groundwater that stays in the system, and it does overwinter fish. In the big pond, the small pond no longer is able to overwinter fish. So the project overall is just, we have a well in the ground at this point, but we have no way to get the water out to the pond. So we need, when we built Old Fort Ponds, we tried to make it as self-sufficient as possible. We used solar wherever we could, knowing someday that we may have to install power somewhere. That someday has come, and you can go to the next part, the next slide. So this is what we're looking to do here. The power to the on-site well pump. We need an additional power pole. We need a 100 amp meter, a 100 amp panel, and a 20 amp feed for the well. We need to bury the conduit line from the power pole down to the pump house, and then we need to build a pump house exclosure. So that's the bones of what this project is doing. Next. Here's kind of the breakdown, even more of those costs. We do have to have help from Pacific Corp. I did throw out an idea that they could contribute to our community fishing pond and just donate this, but I think I did not talk to the right person, so we didn't go anywhere with that. But here's kind of a breakdown of that cost. The total ask is $18,550 to get this part done. Next slide. And just for reference, this would be where the power pole would come from. The well is right about here, and then the pump house would go right over the top of that well. We would run a line underground under here to the small pond with a float on it that would activate reactivate the well to kick on when needed. This is the best we can do for finding another source, I guess, of the water to maintain the levels of these ponds. Once the irrigation season, and they don't pressurize the pipelines till April 15th, and then they drain the pipelines. If we're lucky, we get all the way to October 15th. Last year, all water was gone by September 1st. And then we're just kind of at the mercy of how the groundwater level flows. But super important fishery to our area. I will say, I know we are tight on funds and over allocated or over asked this year. So if this project did need to be pushed back a year, we'll still survive, but I would like to get it done in the next 3 years would be my realistic timeline for this thing. So any questions? Yep.
Just water rights. Have you been working with Eric on just making sure we're square with the world?
Yes.
Always an important question. This takes water. Any other questions on this one?
I mean, I'll just say we spent a lot of money and time, and now they did a good job building this. We got to keep it full of water.
Well, and especially if it's popular, that's the whole point, right?
Yeah, it's a great spot, but it's also challenging. We didn't fully know what we were going to have at this point in the game, but this seems like a pretty viable solution. It at least gives us another alternative to when all the irrigation lines are depressurized, we still have a ground source. And it's basically just recirculating the same water over and over again, but we'll deal with that in the water right.
Just a naive question. I don't know this pond. Why is it broken into two ponds instead of one large?
Because it just ended up that way on paper. And when we tried to think about excavating them together, it just made more sense to try to keep two separate ponds. And the initial thought was we could have a different species, like set of species in one pond versus the other, which it ends up doing that anyways. We stock channel catfish, bass and bluegill in the small pond, and then the other pond pretty much has everything, including about a 30-inch tiger muskie swimming around in it. So it's a pretty cool place. Yeah. Blake, you'll have to come try for it, I guess.
But there's only one. I'm kidding.
There's two.
Okay.
Didn't you say that particular tiger muskie was a little finicky and just like to show itself?
Oh, it puts on a great show, yeah. But they do get caught maybe once every 2 years. But the rest of the time, they're just putting on a show for everybody, and it's pretty cool.
So it's a tiger muskie.
Yeah.
Yeah, most tiger muskies get caught once about every 2 years.
Seems right? No exception to a community pond where they get casted at 7,000 times a day.
Do I have a motion on this one?
I move to approve.
Okay.
I'll second it.
Okay, a motion from Drew, a second from Blake. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed, say no. Okay. Oh, good plan. It's extra.
Thank you, guys. And just for the record, Richard Gibbs should be online taking the next one. If he doesn't show up, I guess I'll come back.
He's there, but we'll get there in a second. Okay, yeah, next project, 7651 Bullock Draw Reservoir Eurasian Water Milfoil Control Project. Richard, is that you then?
Yep, I'm here. You guys hear me all right?
Yep, we can. Go ahead.
Great. Yeah, hi, my name is Richard Gibbs. I'm the aquatic invasive species biologist for the northern and northeastern region. And this is the Bullock Draw Eurasian Water Milfoil Control Project that I'm pitching right now. Next slide. Yeah, need for invasive water milfoil control. We've been seeing milfoil a lot more recently, and particularly in the northeastern region, but also the northern region up at Bear Lake, and then at other few locations. And it's causing a lot of problems with recreation, fishing, and in our smaller ponds with waterfowl. With controlling milfoil, it restores habitat for fishery and waterfowl. It provides anglers boating access and opportunity. Overabundance of milfoil is loss of habitat and creates unwanted fish, and the waterfowl, they can get tangled up in the milfoil. Plant diversity is also a negative effect with milfoil since it is invasive. One example is Pelican Lake. We had 13 aquatic plant species and we're down to at one point to 3 species. It reduces macroinvertebrate diversity, and that has a negative effect on fish and waterfowl. Milfoil creates poor water quality. It robs oxygen from water and can cause fish kills because of less dissolved oxygen. And it increases sediment by trapping sediment. Next slide. The need for the project. Bullock, we need it to provide a sustainable habitat for fish and waterfowl, and have a functioning fishery with a management plan for Bullock, and provide boating and shoreline access to anglers, as mentioned previously, improve water quality, and regain some of the water storage back via clean excavation. And also, we're looking at treating Pelican Lake next fiscal year, and Bullock is within that same. It's connected to Pelican Lake, and so we need to get control over Bullock first with the milfoil problem, and so we don't inadvertently pass that back down to Pelican Lake. And so if we can get control and eradicate milfoil in Bullock, that will solve the problem in Pelican Lake once we treat that. Next slide. Specifics, we're looking at using a herbicide called Percellacor to treat the entire reservoir, 98 acres. We've used Percellacor in a couple of locations with good results. We've used it at one of our lower stillwater ponds, and we're looking at doing that again. That's on Forest Service property. And we also treated a couple of our smaller ponds, Browns ponds, and that showed great results too, reducing the invasive plant. And so we're seeing good progress there. A good thing about Percellacor, it targets water milfoil specifically, and it has very few water restrictions. Now we're also looking at treating the canal that connects Cottonwood to Bullock, and then also a few areas in Cottonwood, specifically in the inlet area. And we're looking at 1 full day for the treatment to eradicate the Eurasian water milfoil. And then after that, monitoring, spot treatments if necessary, and then also monitoring for vegetation inventory and aquatic insect inventory. Next. This is the budget we're looking at, what we're asking for, $79,000 for Habitat Council, and then $79,000 in kind for a total of $86,900. Next. Questions?
Okay, Drew.
Yeah, Richard, thank you. And this question might be for you, might be for Chris Penny or Natalie. What's the permanency of this chemical? We've been dealing with Eurasian milfoil in other regions and other waters for years, and so far it's been a bit of a coyote program where we, treat it for a year, disappears and then it comes back. So what's the game plan here to eliminate?
Yeah, we've had really good success with this herbicide. The only place that it hasn't done as well, or any herbicide, is Bear Lake. But Bear Lake is unique, and they're still trying to tackle that. The Forest Service and the parks, but the Forest Service did treat Pony Grove just right below that, and the results look really good. And so what we're looking at is a one-time application to get rid of it completely, and with possibly doing some spot treatments. But looking at some of the locations that we've done here in the northeastern region, I haven't seen any Eurasian water milfoil come back. At Brown's Ponds, it was treated 2 years ago and still looking really good. Lower Stillwater, that was done, I think, a year ago, and haven't found any milfoil in that since then.
Thanks, Richard.
Other questions on this one?
I'm just curious, is this something you guys put in the water by a boat, or is it like an aerial application?
It's done by boat. So it's they use drop lines, and they inject it into the water. It is a liquid solution.
Other questions? Okay, do we have a motion on this one?
I move to approve.
Okay, got a motion from Drew, a second from Angie. All in favor say aye. Any opposed, say no. All right, motion passes. Okay. Thanks, Richard.
Thank you all.
We're going to move to some Southeast Region projects now. Start with 7426 Price River Tributaries and Wet Meadow Restoration. Go ahead.
All right. Hi, everybody. I'm Evan Reese. I'm the habitat restoration biologist for the DWR in the Southeast region. I think so. Maybe I just need to lean over a little bit. So there's a couple parts to this project. The first part I'll talk about is on Beaver Creek. You can kind of see that area there. It's up in the mountains, getting closer to Schofield. This part of the project has been worked on by Trout Unlimited with Thomas DeHart. He's been working a lot with quite a few different landowners, private landowners in that area of the creek. It's starting to down cut a little bit and channelize, and the water table is dropping out a little bit. If you want to go to some of the pictures, Daniel, there's a couple in there that show it pretty well. Like maybe that third one or fourth one in. Oh, not maybe another one. That's part of the different part of the project. Yeah, right there. So as you can see, it's starting to down cut some, and you have the sagebrush and other brush species starting to encroach into what used to be and what could be a lovely riparian area there. So their plan is to go through these stretches of the creek and put in about 100 BDAs to slow down that water, let it sink in, collect sediment, and build back up that floodplain through that area to encourage the growth of those riparian species throughout that area. As part of that, they're also going to be planting willows throughout. And there's also 2 springs that they're looking to develop and to put fencing around to protect them, and then to put some troughs extending out for livestock and wildlife to be able to use that water. This project is supported by those landowners, and they're also very eager to There's not very many beaver currently in that area, so they're hoping with putting in some of these beaver dam analogs to encourage beaver activity, and the landowners are on board with that to kind of sustain in future years the beavers to be able to do the work to uphold the integrity of this riparian area. Another portion of this project is a continuation of some work that we've done quite a bit in the Emma Park area using low-tech rock structures or Z-dike structures. This area is very important for a lot of different species, but especially sage grouse. They have active and current leks on these wet meadows throughout the area, and over the years they've started developing head cuts and channelizing, and a lot of these pictures will show some of the before and after on previous years' work throughout here. We've gone through and put in these Z-dike structures to treat the head cuts and to stop the channelizing and to protect these precious wet meadows up in that area. This year's work, we're not asking for any funding additionally. We're partnered with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service on this, and we have some grant funding from previous years, but this part of the project, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife is funding some more work in this area. So I think as far as the financial section goes, it looks like Trout Unlimited for the BDAs and the spring development work on Beaver Creek are looking for $25,000, and to match with other funding from other sources as well. They're working in part with the NRCS with agreements with those private landowners, and as part of that they'll be monitoring and making sure that the grazing allows for these areas to reestablish well. I think that's it. If you have any questions, I'll do my best to answer those for you.
Questions?
I'll just a comment. I appreciate the work on this. You guys have done a really great job with that landowner up there. They hosted the WRI tour for us last year, and yeah, this is exactly the kind of project that I like to see come through this council and WRI. So, good job.
Thank you.
Heather.
Thanks. As everyone knows, with my background with BDAs and beaver translocations and sage grouse and almost everything that Evan just mentioned, I really love this project as well. And thanks for, keeping up the good work with stream stabilization and wet meadows and music habitat for sage grouse. And it's just awesome. I love this project.
Well, thank you.
Other questions?
Yeah, I was just, not to be redundant, one, I actually wrote this down. I really, really like this one. Couple quick questions.
That's saying something.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you got two reallys.
This area I know a little bit, but it looks like, I checked the map on this, and I believe it's pretty much all private.
Yes.
Does the landowner allow fishing access or any type of access to the public?
As far as I know, they don't on the Beaver Creek area. I think Trout Unlimited has been working with them, but as far as I understand, they don't.
Okay. And then the other thing is just on the money side, I didn't understand, because I swear the first time I looked at this project, it was showing nothing from the Habitat Council. And I thought in your comments, you're also saying, we're not asking for a ask because we have other sources. There's ask in there now.
Yeah, it's kind of split into two sections a little bit. For the Z-dike structures in the wet meadow area, we're not asking for any, but specifically for the BDAs in the Beaver Creek area, I think they're asking for some funding on that.
Okay, that was my misunderstanding.
Oh, no worries.
Evan, do you know if your BIL money on this is already committed to certain work, or is this a new proposal to Fish and Wildlife Service for BIL money?
I believe that BIL money is specifically towards the Emma Park work.
I hope so, and we're kind of coming to understand that any new IRA or BIL money being requested is pretty much going to be denied. So
okay,
just keep that in mind moving forward, I guess.
Yeah, that's something
but
have to work out when we figure it out.
yeah. Any other questions on this one? Do I have a motion?
I'll motion to approve it.
Okay.
My second.
Okay. Tyler's first, so I'll grab that one. So, a motion from Tyler. Second from Randy. All in favor say aye. Any opposed say no. Okay, motion passes.
Thank you.
Our next project, 7446 Price River Improvements. Remember to introduce yourself and.
Hi, I'm Eric McCulley. Met you all before over the years, and I've been asked by the City of Helper to come and present on the Price River improvements. You've probably heard of the Price River, the Helper project, and it was over 10 years of work to do 6 different phases of removal of obsolete infrastructure, increasing of angling and recreation opportunities, and a balance with the existing infrastructure there. So all 6 phases were completed, and then there was a big fire up in the Bear Fire up in Price Canyon, which created some significant issues with debris and some really major flash floods that came down through there. And frankly, they kind of blew out some of these projects. It goes from basically under 100 CFS to thousands of CFS in like an hour, I think. It's ungauged though, so we don't know exactly how big that was. But so a lot of the area down through Helper got damaged by some of the debris flows and the flash floods that came through. And this request, if you go to these project photos, this is phase 3 after it was built, and decent connectivity and decent stability. So then we can scroll down to the next picture, and then it kind of, you can see a lot of the rocks got washed out of there, and it created some issues down below, and there's unstable conditions, and that's phase 3. So let's go down. That's post flood. One more, and then this is phase 4. There's the Saco diversion, and then the RV parks on the left. So this is pretty soon after it was built, and then we can go to the next one. And so it the floods came through and jumbled things up pretty good. The existing infrastructure is not really in working conditions right now, and there's some challenges through here. So it would be to rebuild this. This is probably the priority, is phase 4, because of the balance of infrastructure and access and things like that. So this is, you can see the debris and the sediment. So let's go to the next one. And there's just from above. These were all drops. They're not drops anymore. They're just kind of randomly distributed through there. So scroll down. And then phase 5 is up near Martin Road, and there's some damage that occurred on these banks that were on the upstream side, and some of those kind of came apart a little bit with these big floods. And so the project is to basically go in and redo a lot of these. I think that's the last one here. You can see, some of the stuff just got kind of knocked out of there. Phase 5 is the least important one, but there is some need for fixing some of the stuff there. And I think that's the last. And then if you go back and you look at the designs, I know, I believe it's in documents. So look at the plans markup right here. I know black and white engineering pictures are not the most entertaining, but there is some purple on there. So, and that just shows, these are basically how they were designed and implemented, and the project is to go back and reestablish these close to how they were and just make improvements on that. So, So those provide the detail if you need any more information on the detail. So there's 3 projects basically, and there's also a request for some corridor planning, and Helper City has has some funds in this, and also Carbon County, and then there's requests for outdoor recreation, the RRI, which is recreation rehabilitation. I think that's what it's called. So, put this back how it was, and as the fire sort of settles down, or the debris coming off the fire settles down, get this back into shape and kind of recreate that balance of recreation access, aquatic habitat, angling opportunities, and balance with the existing infrastructure. And so I'm not sure how much funds were requested through Habitat Council, but I think if you scroll down, it's 375 from WRI, and then about 200 from Outdoor Rec, and then there's other funding from the city and the county in there as well. So, does anyone have any questions?
I have one, and this may be for Tyler. This project seems like a slam dunk for EWP money.
They're working on some other things in the EWP. I don't think that.
But not this?
The county would have to lead that. Carbon County would have to lead that, and I know Carbon County has some other watershed projects that they're working on. You're right, maybe it would be EWP, but there's not interest from the county right now in pursuing that.
Would EWP pay for this kind of design? I mean, to me, EWP is just rip-wrapping everything.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
That's been my experience too.
So my question, Eric, is you're basically putting it back to the original design, right?
Pretty much so, yeah. There's some minor changes probably where things didn't work out as well as they should have, yeah.
So what is the capacity of that design? And do we think that the Bear Fire's done sending giant waves of water down?
The Price River is definitely flashy. It can be, and this is probably going to look at going deeper, potentially using bigger rocks and make some improvements so it will be more sustainable. Not just go right back to the same thing, but enhance it that one step more and look at that to make sure it is going to be more sustainable. But if you go from 100 CFS to 9,000 or thousands of CFS, it's a tough situation for the Price River through Helper because it used to go out across the entire flat area, and yes, there's only so far you can go to make it so it's forever, right? So this is taking it back to a more sustainable and just something that's going to withstand these. We don't know what's going to happen as far as rain and other things like that, and I haven't been up and seen how the fire's going, but they have made a lot of improvements in the watershed. So, yeah.
So maybe not, Tyler.
I mean, I get it. It's hard to know. And we did reseed that fire, and it really, it's just tough. I just don't want to fund it until we're pretty certain that fire's done sending walls of water off of it.
Yeah.
So I'll be honest. I think we'll probably choose one of the phases, and it sounds like phase 4 is your choice for the first one.
Mm-hmm.
And then I really appreciate you putting in for that outdoor rec money, because I know that's always a source that I think we underutilize, and you guys have done a good job on this project over the years going after that funding.
And they do have a new planning fund with outdoor recreation. I just heard about it like a couple weeks ago. They have like 20 million set aside for more of the corridor planning and the recreation planning, and Helper City has been invited to participate in that. It's an invite only thing, so I think that will also help with if there's multiple years that this needs to get fixed up over time. there is definitely interest from outdoor rec.
I also appreciate that money is being chased too. Recreation isn't just mountain bikes and paddle boards. It's hunting and fishing is recreation too. So we need to help them remember that.
Yeah, and they love to fund river projects from recreation because there are not that many rivers that, you know, have that opportunity in Utah. So
I'll make the motion to approve it.
Okay.
I'll second.
All right. We have a motion from Tyler. We have a second from Drew. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed, say no. All right, motion passes.
thanks.
Thanks, Eric.
Appreciate it.
Okay, our last one from our Southeast region, 7579 Southeast Region Riparian Restoration, FY26.
Hi, my name's Colton Taylor. I'm the impact analysis biologist in the Southeastern region with the Division of Wildlife. I'm here to talk today about beavers and some beaver work. So the Division of Wildlife gets calls pretty regularly involving nuisance beavers, and so we're just wanting to have some ways to help mitigate these conflicts. After conversations with the Forest Service, we're hoping to get some funding to have materials on hand, so if we do run into some issues, we can help go try to take care of that immediately. Some of the materials we'd like to have, you can see here hog panels in this photo here for this beaver deceiver. Another photo will show pond levelers, so you can keep those dams in place while allowing water to travel and kind of help maintain water flow. Another thing that we're trying to ask for is funding for a contractor to come trap beaver in the Southeastern region. It's going to be more direct because I know they've had issues with relocating beaver in the past, trying to get them to stay. So there are talks about focusing maybe a couple of weeks in the fall, targeting some areas where we have nuisance beaver known, and hitting that hard for a couple of weeks, trying to get a couple of family groups and relocating them to some of our prior restoration areas to help expand some of those treatment areas as well. One reason why we're doing it in the fall is the hope that maybe relocating them late in the fall, providing them bundles of willows, this will help keep them in place and maybe help them set up camp, not want to move. And yeah, so we're asking $5,000 for a contractor to come trap beaver, and we're asking $5,000 for material to have on hand for nuisance beavers. So
Pretty straightforward.
pretty straightforward.
Any questions?
Two quick questions though.
'Kay.
One, I'm just curious on that first picture,
Uh-huh.
had like parallel fencing set up. What is that?
So that's to help kind of develop this long, I guess, structure to keep it so it can't really be dammed off. If you develop a structure too close to like a culvert, they're still able to somewhat dam it off and block water. So if you design it in a similar design to this, or it just reduces that risk of them being able to actually dam it off and cause issues. So
Okay. And the other question is just, and maybe I'm misremembering, but I thought when you relocated beaver, you had to quarantine them.
yes, so
Is that factored in with your pricing? And
yeah, we'll be housing them in office there. We have a little area that we can contain them, and it'll be like a 3-day quarantine before they'll be released to the release sites there. So
I'm just curious why you didn't bring this to WRI this year.
that could be a good question for TJ.
I mean, we like these beaver dam animal, or these beaver management type projects, so I don't know, I would encourage you to bring it next year.
Okay. Noted. So
Heather, go ahead.
You guys know I have to comment on this. I just think the reward is so great for such little ask in the finance for something like beaver translocations with all the benefits that are gained there. And just a note, I'm sure you guys have this all in your protocol and everything, but just as a note, we've generally done 72-hour quarantine for beavers from unknown water sources and from known positive for any kind of AIS or mud snails or any other whirling disease or anything. We've always done a 5-day. So, but this is going to be really exciting. I'm excited. Thanks for doing this.
Yeah, since Steve's not here, can we assign this to Big Game?
Yes. Oh,
there you go. It's already there.
Not enough. Deer are gonna live on this.
If that's the case, these are like the cheapest guzzler you'll ever get. So, any other comments? Okay, we have a motion.
A motion to accept it.
Okay. Got a motion from Randy, a second from Blake. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed, say no. Okay, motion passes. All right. Thank you, Colton. Yep. Okay, we're gonna move to Central Region projects now. 6898 Tibble Fork Reservoir Angler Access and Habitat Improvement. Oh, sure. We can do that.
That project for Tibble Forks.
Okay, 7430 Community Pond Habitat Enhancement.
Yes.
Go ahead.
There should be a short PowerPoint in the files. You guys forgive me today. I got a crick in my neck, so if I'm looking at you sideways, it's...
Well, you are an aquatics biologist, so...
This is true. Picking too many nets here lately. So, my name's Chris Crockett. I'm the Regional Aquatics Manager out of our Springville, Utah office. And this is actually a project that Tyler put together with a little bit of input from us. So I want to give kudos to Tyler Robinson, who is a fairly recent hire. And one of the reasons we hired him was to help us with our black bass management and some of our habitat work. So you'll kind of see a theme. You can go to the next slide. So this is a pretty familiar goal, pretty familiar project. We've been conducting a creel in our community fisheries the last year. We are still compiling our data, but there's quite a few things that have become clear to us, and they weren't necessarily a surprise, but it's always good to kind of get a little bit more information to see if what you think's happening is actually happening. And one of the things that was frequently coming up was a lot of anglers are interested in black bass, so specifically largemouth bass, what often came up. Lots of other individuals interested in fishing for other warm water species like bluegill and black crappie. And as you probably know, a lot of these community fisheries don't have much habitat available. So as we've begun building them, we've started to implement habitat projects before they're even filled. But we have a lot of ponds that were built 20, 30 years ago that are kind of just in a bathtub shape without very many habitat features. So Chris Penny in the northern region, they've done a lot of this work putting habitat structures in. We've done quite a bit of work, say about 7 or 8 years ago, and this is us kind of going back through adding more habitat and also tweaking some of the habitat features and structures and locations based on what we've learned from that initial push as well as what we're seeing from anglers. So we're asking for a fairly small amount of money to buy habitat features for these community ponds where we see a future in management for warm water species. You'll probably see a little bit of changes come down the road in the next few years, but this is kind of just our first stab at turning some of these already pretty good community fisheries for largemouth bass into even better community fisheries for largemouth bass. So most of our efforts for this next effort will be Salem, Highland Glen, Spring Lake, Jordan River, Cove, Sunset, and Willow Pond. And I think it's probably obvious why we're putting this habitat in here, but it's worth just kind of, echoing what's already been said by Brunson. I mean, a lot of these areas, very little habitat features. There's very little places to hide from avian predators, from other large fish. think everyone realizes kind of the dynamics between protecting the prey, protecting the predators, and giving them a place to thrive and to hide. So next, excuse me, next slide, please. These features, they range in price from kind of like the most basic of about $150 up to about $500. So roughly, we're asking for about enough to put in, excuse me, roughly they average about $250. So we're asking for $20,000 from the Habitat Council for those projects. You've already seen some of these. These are some of the ones that kind of hang from the docks. We traditionally call them dock hangers. Really good for bluegill. So like on a pond like Willow Park, where you've got fairly deep water, you've already got a great fishing platform. You literally just hang these from the docks, and then the kids can just fish straight down for bluegill. The largemouth bass come in there, obviously, to eat those bluegill. These are kind of some of the root wad mentality as well as the tree mentality. So next slide, please. I think that's about it. As far as our expected outcomes, we are hoping that we will see an increase in fishing opportunity, an increase in size, and also ability for us to stock fewer fish by having these warm water fish naturally reproduce. We do think the trout will use these as well, but what our initial focus here really is on those warm water fish. Some of the other work we've done in the past is focused a little bit more on trout habitat and catfish habitat. I think that's all I have. Is there any questions or comments?
Another good, reasonably priced habitat structure project.
Yeah.
For ponds.
I will bring this up. Typically, we're doing these in phases, and depending on funding availability, sometimes we're told combine these and buy them all 1 year. The next year we're told, can you phase this out? We're pretty agreeable to doing it both ways, and I completely understand the complexities from the funding standpoint, but just so you guys know, if you're like, why are you giving us these $20,000 projects every year? Come to us with $100,000. We can do that too. So, okay.
So noted.
Chris, I'll just say the timing of the creel survey and this project is spot on. So thank you. Is this going to be reinforced with some stocking?
Yes. Yeah.
A little off topic, but what's the status of the Dry Creek, the one on the Alpine Highway?
If you talk to the county, it's going to be ready every single day. And then you talk to them the next, and it's a year away. So the county has expressed some renewed interest in the Dry Creek Highland Pond. That's the one basically kind of in that little dip by Dry Creek when you're heading up towards American Fork Canyon. It's about a 20-acre one. But right now, it's still pretty dry. But they have renewed their meetings. There's been, I forget the amount, but there's been some new money allocated to that, and it's several $1 million. So I'm hoping it's still on the board. And you may be asking, because we have some habitat structures that we bought for Dry Creek. I think we're probably going to put that towards this other effort unless anyone has any complaints, so that way they are not sitting unused.
Didn't we buy a cleaning station too for it?
Yes, we also have a cleaning station, yes, Tyler.
I mean, I'd love to see that. I really would like to see that, but I know it's kind of out of your hands at this point. I mean, that would be a huge community fishery to take some pressure off of Tibble Fork, and so yeah.
They have invited Mike and I to speak at one of their meetings over the next couple of months. We had a calendar invite to go like about a couple of weeks ago, and that got moved. So I do feel like it's getting picked back up again. So yeah, appreciate those comments.
Just by now, everyone knows how I feel about these artificial habitats. And I really do like that you're expanding the community fisheries program to include these warm water species, especially the panfish like the bluegill. Those are great species to get kids into fishing. And those dock hangers are going to be great because then those kids can just drop their plain gold hook down and catch bluegill all day, because those dumb little bluegill don't even need bait. So, yeah, I like that you're expanding the community fisheries project to include these other species. So,
appreciate that. Appreciate that. Yeah, it'll be, I won't go into it too much, but it'll be interesting. We'd be happy to present some of that creel data when we get it compiled, because I think we're going to be very surprised at how many angler hours per acre we see on some of these tiny little community fisheries.
Okay, do we have a motion on this one? Okay. Okay, we have a motion from Blake and a second from Drew. All in favor say aye. Any opposed say no. Okay, motion passes. I don't see Mike.
I can go to Mike's. I won't do as good a job as Mike, but I'm used to that.
Let's jump to the central region and see if we can get Mike come. He's up at Blue Ribbon right now. He's going to jump down here. So as soon as he walks in, I'd say let's wait till Mike shows up.
Thanks.
Okay, so yeah, so we'll just jump down to the next project, 7455 Central Region Repair and Restoration FY26. Looks like Josie's up.
I'm Josie Siemens. I'm the impact analysis biologist in our Central Region for DWR. You've seen this one a bunch over the years. Just our beaver relocation, translocation project, and kind of doing similar to like Colton talked about. I'd like to ask for just a little bit of equipment or supplies to have on hand to deal with some nuisance issues on top of just moving beavers. So here's just some pictures. This is a pond leveler we put in Park City last year. You can see behind there's some hotels, pretty developed area that was on the verge of flooding. We put this pond leveler in and solved that issue. So always ask for just a little bit of money to have pipe and fencing on hand to deal with some of those. So going to go to finance. Part of this with the Central Region and the Northern Region, we always ask for a little bit of money to help with the operation and management of the Utah State Beaver Ecology and Relocation Facility. We work with them quite a bit with trapping and relocating beavers. Kind of been a good partnership there. We're actually getting 2 beavers from there today. So, and then looking to continue with private trapper. We have a private trapper we have a good relationship with that solves a lot of nuisance issues and is really good at catching beavers for us. So have a little bit of money in there for that. And then a little bit of personal services money to hire seasonal to help us out with just day-to-day stuff, logistics, that kind of thing. And then with the materials and supplies, we do have our quarantine facility in Ephraim that with this fiscal year we're in right now, we're using some money in this current year project to upgrade that a little bit and put some money into that. So, I think it's worth noting. I don't know, just usually this project scores really well in WRI, and this year I don't know if we just have a lot of good projects or it kind of got skewed a little bit, so it's not up as high as it normally is in WRI. So this is total ask is down from previous years, so we've kind of cut where we can and try to streamline it as much as we can. So and hopefully we don't have the tularemia issues this year as we did last year. So
I'll jump in before Heather does. Oh, did she? Okay, well then I'll do Heather's part. I just want to say I love these. I think every region should have one of these. I think every region but the Northeastern now has one. So yeah, I definitely support these. To me, this is the cheapest habitat restoration we get through the WRI or this council.
And this is because I can't remember which region. It was last meeting, one of these came up, and these are great. I can't speak highly enough of these type of programs, but you guys are partnering up with Utah State University.
Yes.
What are you sharing? Because I wish I could remember which region, but I asked them, like, because I knew, and I think it was you guys from last year.
Yeah, so the northern region and us, we both partner with them, give them a handful of money to just do their day-to-day operation. But they have a lot of established trappers up north, and I honestly think they have a fair amount of nuisance issues that they deal with, and just logistically they can't, like what they're trapping on a yearly basis, they always have extra beavers, so they can call us, call other regions that just makes sense to work with them to get extra beavers when we can. So
I would assume the regions talk with each other. I mean, if there's something that can be shared,
yeah,
that Utah State's already doing, I don't know why I hope we're not reinventing the wheel.
Yeah.
In other regions. So I would hope you'd share what you're getting from them. Maybe.
Yep. Yeah. And I think it's a good, like I say, they definitely use Utah State more in the northern region just because that makes sense. But there's always times that like they just can't do it yet or have extra beavers up there or something. And it's easy for us to coordinate and send a driver north to pick some beavers up. So.
Yeah. So we do talk about these things statewide. And I think from my perspective, what we see is this gets heavily used and we contribute from northern region to central region to work with USU. But for northeast region, southeast region, or southern region to try to accommodate traveling back and forth and the stress that puts on beavers, just the distance becomes a factor. And that's why the other regions maybe are not utilizing that resource because it's just farther away and more difficult.
Yeah, it usually comes down to logistics. So it's like just these ones that we're getting today, like it was kind of going to be a hassle for us. And so we mentioned that the southern region might take them just because it's warmed up a little bit more down there. And but just feasibility wasn't going to work. So we made it work. So.
Yeah, we have talked about if there was a way that somebody else could establish a similar site with infrastructure that maybe wasn't us that we could support down somewhere in southern Utah. Nothing's materialized yet. So
biggest thing comes down to infrastructure and people to take care of them while they're in quarantine.
USU's has built some infrastructure and they got a bunch of students to manage it, and it makes it super easy for us to work with them. They do research on it too. So yep. Other questions? Maybe grab a mic really quick from someone. Somebody want to throw a mic down there too? Thanks.
I don't know if you mentioned this, Josie, but just it didn't score as well in WRI this year, so really going to need Habitat Council funds to get this going this year. So.
Yep, we did talk about that a little. Yep.
Good to know. Okay. Do I have a motion?
I move to approve.
Okay, got a motion from Drew. I got a second from Angie. All in favor say aye. Any opposed say no. Okay.
Okay, thanks guys.
Thanks. Oh, I don't see Slater yet. Okay, we'll keep going. 7619 Community Fishery Habitat Augmentation.
Let's jump to the northern region. That's Mike's project as well.
Oh, that's his too? Okay. Sorry, yeah. Okay, moving to northern region. 7385 Pole Creek Repairing Improvements. Shane's up again.
And Shane Hill, some practical joke, make me stay here on my last day with the Division of Wildlife, but it's been good. So this project is similar. We've seen some similar ones here just recently. Located, I sent you a slideshow if you would open that up. Yeah. So this project is kind of about as far northwest as you can go in the state. and still be on public land. In Pole Creek, West Box Elder. This is a collaboration with the Trust Lands. So, hey, go ahead. I was just trying to show how remote this project is, way out there, as far as you can go. This is what it's looking like. Our goal here is to do some stream restoration, floodplain reconnectivity, similar to the projects you've already seen today, but with. Go ahead, advance. Yeah, we'll just show you what it looks like. It's been heavily grazed and without a lot of mitigation going on for a long time. It needs a lot of work. Next. So why we're choosing it, the reason we chose this spot specifically is because it's one of, I think, 6 spots in the state where, sorry, I'm not the fish biologist, but I believe the blue chub occurs. Is that right, Drew? Do you know? Okay, yeah. So, green sucker, sorry. That's the chub. It's one of the only 6 places in the state where this species occurs. But in addition, the northern leatherside chub occurs there as well. So there's a lot of desire to improve it so that we don't lose that native assemblage. It also, our goals are also to improve this water limited area. Desert dry as it can be out there, but this stream can provide a lot of habitat for a lot of different species, including deer, elk, moose, turkey. Turkey's kind of up in the air because they recently decided that they chose a spot to start releasing releasing turkeys in a nearby drainage. So any habitat improvement may improve the range of the turkeys that they're releasing there. Next. So what we want to do is use BDAs and other LTPBR methods to reconnect the floodplain, to create more diversity in the diverse habitat for a number of species, and we want to utilize a lot of the junipers that are in the valley bottom there that have moved in as the water has the water table has dropped, and so there's about 20 acres total. It's not super dense, but we want to go in there with volunteers and just remove those trees and start building the dams with those. But we'll also be putting up some fences to control livestock access to the stream. And we have talked with the county CRM, and there were no objections to that as of yet, but we'll see if that holds true. Next, please. Like I said, this is what it looks like, and kind of an oblique view of kind of the conditions with sparse junipers around. So those will make great material for building the in-stream structures. Next. So we're asking for $85,000. We are going to be going to the SPA, asking for money from the SPA as well, Species Protection Account, for a grant to build the BDA, a contract to build the BDAs. It's a little high because of how remote it is. We kind of put it at a premium for that reason. Utilizing dedicated hunters for a lot of the labor to get materials there, and funds to build those exclusion fences. I believe that's it.
Questions on this one?
Just a comment, thank you. Those are 2 of our highest priority conservation species, so it's the right time for a project like this. And I was just curious, Chris, is Chris Penny here? No?
He just stepped out.
So Clint, what's the situation with non-native fish in Pole Creek?
We have brook trout there.
On and off in our sampling efforts. One year we'll have rookies there. The next time we sample, we don't find
Start
Thanks
over.
for the reminder.
Sorry, forgot about the mic part. So we do have brook trout there as non-natives. We may have brown trout. This is a stream that I wanted to get to this fall, and I didn't make it there. I believe it's also a site for western pearl shell. If I'm thinking of the right species, and
So
maybe
I've been working with Shantae on this.
Yeah.
Mostly.
So Shantae went out, saw the stream, said, "Hey, is there something we can do?" And so Shane and Zach went out and took some drone video, and that's where some of these pictures and stuff came from too. But our sampling locations, past years we'll have a lot of brook trout in our reaches, or in one reach, and then the next time we sample we don't have very many or any at all. So there's some dynamics there that I don't know that we've really figured out as far as the non-native component of this little fishery. As you can see, it's foot wide, and there's not a lot of water there, but it's permanent.
Yeah, the reason I ask is, we're busy with those two species kind of throughout the northern part of the state, and if we can, do some fisheries work to remove non-natives, it would really go a long ways towards conserving those two.
I think that is in the plans.
Yeah.
I think Shantae has that in the plans.
Yeah, it's in the narrative. Sorry, I forgot to mention that, but yeah, we will be, as she put it, be doing this in conjunction with like brown trout control of some sort. I don't know the details.
My guess is it's going to be mechanical. I think we'll just shock, and while we're shocking, we'll remove those species of fish.
Yeah. See, Mike's here now. Do we want me to step down, let him?
I think we still have some more questions on
Okay,
this
sorry.
maybe.
So Shane, in the proposal, I believe it mentioned they're talking about releasing turkeys out there, because I don't think there's any there now. Right?
Yeah, it was recently proposed as a release site nearby. It is a little bit of a stretch, but that's what our biologist told me, that it was a good spot because they are going to be releasing turkeys nearby.
Huh.
And it's not too far. It's not that far away. It's totally plausible that the improvement in this would help them as well.
Okay. And then this, I've been good about not bringing this up lately, and Shane, this won't be directed to you, but I like this project. I think it's a good area to work. I am not buying 30%. There's just very little.
I didn't mention sage grouse.
No, I knew that wasn't
It
yours.
was
That's
on-
why
it was on-
I threw out an exclusion for Shane, just like, I'm not buying 30% on this.
It's because of the turkeys.
That aren't there and probably will never live there.
When this didn't have any Habitat Council listed on it, and so Daniel and I, we were the ones that came up with the basically splitting it into three between the three species because it was kind of
It's got the meadows, and I'm
Yeah,
taking
so-
some, but I'm not gonna.
anyway. So I'm open to suggestions, and I will change it in the database. That was just kind of what we came up with discussing just Daniel and I and what we knew from the proposal.
No,
so.
and that's why I said Shane, this isn't you.
Yeah, it's me.
What about 10%?
Yes, and I'd actually feel very comfortable with that because there are some sage grouse further south, but there's some in that area.
Put it on big game. No, you can move that to sport fish.
Any other comments? Okay, do we have a motion?
I move to approve. Good project.
Okay, I've got a motion. Second from Randy. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed, say no. Okay, motion passes. All right, do you have all the rest of the Northern Region ones?
There's one that Chris will. I've got two others.
Okay, Mike is here. You okay if we throw back to him since we passed him up? So we're gonna go back to finish up Central Region here. Start with 6898 Tibble Fork Reservoir, Angler Access, and Habitat Improvement. Thanks for coming back, Mike.
Thank you.
I know you've
Kind
been
of bouncing
jumping
back and
between
forth
both,
between
so.
upstairs and here. Mike Slater with the Central Region, work as a sport fish biologist. And the project I want to present today is at Tibble Fork. This is up American Fork Canyon. And we're proposing that we do some habitat improvements here at the reservoir and also improve some angler access opportunities. I think it's dual purposed here. I do want to point out on this picture right here, this is what we call Deer Creek that comes into the reservoir right here. And the improvements here, the reservoir was raised significantly back in 2016, 2017. And so there's a lot more storage capacity. It is an irrigation reservoir like most reservoirs in Utah. It goes up and down on an annual basis. And this stretch here, where we have no riprap like you see on the dam, is where we want to concentrate our efforts to improve some habitat and improve angler access both at the same time. So maybe the next slide, please. So how are we doing this? What are we doing? You know what, I ought to go back to that picture. Let me explain one more thing on that reminds me of. The anglers right now, they have most of their angling opportunity all along the dam here, and then along the south side of the reservoir. As part of that reservoir improvement, we spent a significant amount of money there building a trail for the anglers to access. So essentially right now, the anglers have access on the other side of the lake and along the dam. And the last picture that you'll see in the presentation will show you what kind of access they have on this north side of the reservoir. So maybe now I'll take that next one. It's just a really popular area. It gets used a ton, more and more as populations grow and the public's looking for a place to play, to get wet in the summertime. It's just becoming, I don't want to say a real conflict, but there is a little bit of use conflict. I don't know how else to say it. Between the swimmers, the anglers, boaters, people that are wanting to use the reservoir in a variety of ways. And so the Forest Service actually came to us and asked us if we could help them separate those two user groups, if you will. And so we feel like we have a path or a way that we can do that by improving habitat, creating some fish holding habitat along that Deer Creek inlet, and to some extent restricting the desire for the swimmers and beach goers to that location. It's not going to do anything for out in the middle of the lake. You know, anybody can be out in a boat and be out there. But as far as having shoreline access, we believe that this project will improve and help with that. I miss anything else? I think that's it. Let's go to the next one. So what are we asking for? It's approximately $13,000 is what we're asking for. What this is going to cover is some materials for large boulders that we're going to place intermittently on both sides of that Deer Creek inlet, which we believe will create some habitat for the fish. And it'll also create a place where people don't want to set up their towels, their awnings, their places to swim or to be on the beach, to lay out on the beach, as that water recedes every year due to irrigation purposes or needs. So that's the primary materials that we'll be buying. Then we're going to use our heavy equipment crew that will come in and place those rocks, kind of bury those rocks intermittently in this area. And I do want to add that the Forest Service is contributing $3,000 cash for us to help purchase the materials there. And then we'll have in-kind, as far as a couple of us up there overseeing the actual construction, the actual work itself. Any questions on the funding aspects of what we're doing there? Okay. It has evolved a little bit. We were going to increase the amount of riprap that you saw on the dam and just carry it all the way through Deer Creek. The Forest Service our partner wasn't excited about that perspective or that idea. They're the ones that have come up with this larger rock and interspaced, and so that's why we're going down the route that we are going down now. Maybe one last slide. So again, it gets used a lot. This is just, we're hoping to create, when it's low, we'll have rocks spaced all along here on both sides of this, which we feel that the people won't come over quite as much. I wish we could have got this on a busy day. You would have seen the people. I mean, they are everywhere. It's like going to the California beach. Where can I put my towel? I'll just put it on top of my neighbor's towel. It's that bad. And so we feel if we've got big boulders all along here, we're not going there. Again, everybody gets to play, but we are going to do just on both of these sides. Create some of that habitat, create a separation from the anglers and the swimmers, and we'll go from there. I think that was it. Any questions in regards to what we're trying to do here?
Welcome to the Wasatch Front.
Okay, yes. Thank you.
As much as we work on habitat management, it often involves people management too, so. Any other questions on this?
No, I just want to say thank you for working on improving access for fishermen.
Well, and you'll probably get the next one too, so. Oh, Chris is gonna take that one? Gotcha. So we're gonna vote on this one first. Do I have a motion on this one? Okay. Okay, got a motion from Blake and a second from Randy. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed, say no. Okay, we'll move on to the next one. 7619, Community Fishery Habitat Augmentation. Is that the right one?
I think we got an online partner.
Oh.
Brian, this is Chris. Are you online? Can you hear us?
I don't see Brian online.
Okay.
Now,
If it's
hold on.
okay, I can just give it for him real quick.
Hold on 1 second, let me double check. Yeah, not there.
Chris Crockett. This one's very similar to the one that I gave previously, except it's for a pond that's not yet a community fishery, but we're working out some improvements, as well as some improvements that the city is implementing to make it happen. So very similar idea. We can combine this into the work that I already presented. Quite frankly, the reason we left it blank was for you guys to kind of get to know a new partner with Saratoga Springs City. And also, they are contributing in-kind costs around $300,000, but most of that is going to the park improvements. So again, happy to combine those, but that's kind of why we didn't, is they were a little bit different flavor. But just taking a look, this is Penny Springs Park. It's a pre-existing park. It's about an 1.5 acre pond. It's smaller than we traditionally like to utilize if we're building a pond. But this is pre-existing with a very solid, cold, good water source. So kind of talked through this with Craig Walker and some of our other players, and we feel like this is a worthwhile pond. It's a turnkey pond. It's the middle of a thriving neighborhood already, and it'd be worthwhile to be an investment from this team, as well as future investment in stocking from the Division of Wildlife Resources. So what's being proposed is a lot more extensive habitat work. We mentioned that project that I was working on with Salem, Spring City, etc. We've already done quite a bit of habitat work on those. I mentioned that was phase 2. This is essentially phase 1 of the habitat project for what we're calling the Penny Springs Pond. Similar range that I mentioned to you guys earlier, anywhere from these like trophy trees to some of these reed resorts, averaging about $150 to $500 a piece. So. Any questions or comments? Sorry, I went through that pretty quick, but very similar to what we were proposing, just with a new partner at a different pond.
So Chris, being a secondary water source is the primary purpose of this pond. What is the projection of how that's going to be drawn down? I live in Davis County in an area where there's secondary water, and that water is pretty much gone, you know, by September, end of September, where it's drawn down and they basically bury it. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd have to get the details on their water rights, but talking with the city and observing it over the past couple of years, it very seldom gets drawn down more than about a foot. And it's cold. We've put some temperature loggers in there. It's typically, 16 degrees, something like that year round. So we probably a pond that we could maintain fish in year round. That is our plan. Eric, it's an excellent question though. We're still working out the MOU with them. That's another reason we kind of left that separate for now. We want to see those improvements before we make the commitment. But I think it's it's got a lot of opportunity. So
yeah, I think I would just encourage you and be sure that there's some sort of guarantee that they're gonna maintain water in there to keep fish into the fall at least, you know.
Absolutely. It's a great idea, and, you know, we'd be happy to have that like in a stipulation. We can finalize our MOU with them, and that can be laid out very clear.
Cool. Any other questions on this one? Okay, do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
All right. Okay, got a motion from Blake, a second from Randy. All in favor say aye. Any opposed, say no. All right. Thanks, Chris. Appreciate it. Okay, we're going to finish up with the rest of the Northern Region projects. We're in the home stretch, folks. 7395 Weber Riparian Rangeland Resilience Project.
All right, so for this one, I'm here on behalf of my next boss, Sageline Collaborative, Rose Smith, but I told her I'd present for this because I'll be working on this with my new job. But so there's been a lot of work going on in the Weber River watershed for a number of years, especially around Chalk Creek area. And Chalk Creek is one of the largest contributors to sediment and into the Weber River. So there's been a number of grants throughout the years to do a lot of work in there. But we've partnered with other people to get other work done in the same watersheds. So here's a map, kind of the spread of where all the work that you'll see today will be taking place. Next. So objectives, again, I'll just go over each one of those. Some more low-tech process-based restoration in a number of creeks, centered around Chalk Creek. There's some riparian improvement through the use of planting trees and fencing on some private land headed up by UDAF. Trout Unlimited and UDWR doing some floodplain connection on the Weber River. I think Clint was here. He might be able to actually explain more of that one than I could, but more fish passage structures and more floodplain restoration in various areas. This one actually ranked fairly high in WRI, so we're not too worried about it getting at least most of the funding it's needed. This last part, which is what I've been more focused on, it came to you and other funding sources last year. It did get some funding. It ended up not being nearly enough to get done, so he just went back to the drawing table and reproposed it. So we're going to do some Aspen regen on our Hennifer Echo WMA. Next. So just show you what these areas look like. More of the same of what we've seen. We want to get in there and create more diversity by putting some woody debris or BDAs or PALs and or you name it. Next is areas where the fish passage work is expected to happen. Next. More what the area looks like for the floodplain riverbank restoration. Next. This is where the tree planting is expected to occur. And next. And just aerial footage of the area where we wanted it to go in and thin oak and maple for Aspen regen. It's about 100 acres, and the reason it was it was a lot more expensive than we planned is I got contractors that went up there to do a site visit with a number of contractors, and despite being told by some of other folks that they'd be able to get like low boys up there, it's not feasible, so they'd have to track in the equipment, increasing the cost significantly. So we did kind of push the envelope with WRI asking for over $1 million on this one, but knowing we were going to need help from other funding sources. Next. Yeah, as I said, there's a number of other, this is a large, maybe it'd be better to go to the finance page from here. Just kind of show the amount, total ask, but also the amount that's being brought in from other sources. There's RCPP money, there's EQIP money from NRCS. So we're just looking for a little help to get us in Tyler's good graces, stay under $1 million.
So 15,000, or we could write
Oh,
that
we could
down
need more.
for Habitat
We'll take as much as you can, but yeah, we did get some from the sportsman groups.
That's what I'm hearing.
We did get some money from the sportsman groups last year, and I expect we can get at least that much back, and we'd be good. At least to be under $1 million.
So Shane,
Yeah.
the Aspen work didn't work out.
Yeah.
So what are you doing now, or just going in manually?
It's the same. We're still planning on the same thing, just asking for enough money to do it.
Okay.
Other questions? I don't know, I'm wondering, Tyler, what are the tea leaves telling you from WRI?
So one thing we did is we made everybody limit their request to $1 million. And they came really close to that.
It was a challenge.
I think we were surprised at how many $1 million projects are out there, but it's what we ask them for. We ask them for, watershed scale, cross boundary, cross ecological. And so this is what we're getting, and it's because we asked for it. So yeah, this is the #1 project out of the region, highest ranked project out of the region, if I remember correctly. So I'm a huge supporter of it. It needs to happen. Whether we have to phase it or not, I think will depend on how much support it gets from partners, including this council.
This is probably a question for Chris. What's the 70% sport fish value in this project, in your opinion? The breakdown was 70% sport fish, 30% big game in the funding. Sure. What's the 70% value for sport fish?
All right, so there are three big things that were in there. Some of it was the floodplain connectivity, and the other was the Riverdale Bench. The Riverdale Bench is one of the biggest barriers that we have in the Weber. It's way down low. It's one that we've been trying to tackle for probably nearly a decade, but the price tag on it is pretty big, which is why you're seeing some of that 70% there. That part of the river, we got brown trout, we got cutthroat trout, and we got green sucker, which continue to dwindle in the river. And so that's one of the big connectivity issues, is if we handle that project well and get that reconnection there, then we're basically reconnecting miles of river. When it comes to the floodplain stuff, that is also, not only does it benefit sport fish in the form of forage formed by some of the native suckers, like Utah sucker and green sucker, but also one of the big findings from some of the studies that have been done on green sucker is floodplain connectivity and backwaters are critically important to their nursery habitat and cover, which is why you're seeing those. So there's a pretty big component, and mainly I think it's the fish passage that comes with a pretty significant price tag there. But it's a big important one that we've been really hoping to knock down for years.
Thanks, Chris.
You bet.
Other questions?
I'll make the motion to approve it and increase the amount to $100,000.
I second that.
Oh, okay.
What was it? I missed it. So the motion was to approve it for funding consideration and increase the ask to $100,000.
There's no conflict of interest here, right? So we have a motion on the table. Does anybody have any questions about that motion or comments? Okay.
I'll speak to the motion. This is just the beginning for
Anybody want a motion to saunter?
So, I mean, this is the beginning of me really pushing the highest ranked WRI projects that I think are what we want to see, and this is a big one. So this will be the first of many of these pushes for me, I think.
Well, the ranking does speak for itself, so we'll say that.
So moving that to 100,000, is it going to make it more likely to get it through WRI?
It's through WRI, and so yeah, that what I'm saying is this is the #1 project. I really want to see it funded. Do I have $1 million in WRI to put into it? No. So we need a lot of partner support. So that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, because that 100,000 is now to the Habitat Council that
Right.
you're saying.
Exactly.
Okay, we have a motion to increase the Habitat Council amount to 100,000. We have a second from Drew. All in favor, say aye. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Say no. Okay, motion carries. Okay, thanks, Shane. Yeah, you'll be back for sure. Sorry, I'm making a note here. Okay, we're almost done. Home stretch. 7441 Northern Region Community Fishery Docks and Amenities. Mr. Penny.
All right. I wasn't here for the early part of the day, so I don't know how many community fisheries talks were going on. I know Clint mentioned it came up in his part of his habitat proposal, but
A bunch, Chris. Remember to introduce yourself.
Chris Penny, Aquatics Program Manager for the Northern Region. I'll still spout at least one statistic, which was a few years ago, I think it was a 2020 statewide angler survey showed that about 20% of Utah's 498,000 anglers use community fisheries, most of which are located along the Wasatch Front. So that amounts to close to 100,000 people that are using these things. As was said, we've got a Creel survey that we're wrapping up data analysis on that's probably going to show that's even higher than we thought. So with all these community fisheries that we have, and with them being not only an introductory avenue to fishing for the public, but also a retainment tool for older anglers, it takes some good amenities to keep people coming to these things and to have them have basically a safe and fun experience. So what we're looking for here is 3 different dock projects that are already in different stages of development. Looks like we're at the Smith Park Pond here on this first one that Daniel's zooming in on. This is one of our newest community fisheries in Far West. Immensely popular, connected to other recreation areas such as playground, tennis courts, pickleball, even an equestrian center. And what we're looking for here on this one is basically completion of a dock. There was another Habitat Council project. The community tried to do really well at keeping costs low on this one, but the dock is about 110 feet long. They had a sweetheart deal with a contractor that was local that ended up falling through, and that contractor got bought out. So they got a little bit stalled. They've got the pylons in, which I think you can actually see from the map. The location is where that black dot is there. So pylons are in, fabrication and completion of the dock just needs to be completed. They went out to bid, got several different bids, and I believe the best they were able to do is about $45,000 for fabrication, plus I think it's about $10,000 or $15,000 for footings and a few other things just to finish it up. They're splitting that ask between Habitat Council with us and then outdoor recreation grant, which we think they're going to receive. Can we go to the next one, perhaps either Andy Adams or Clearfield? And actually, Daniel, you'd probably be okay if you just went to the pictures and attachments. Okay. I didn't know whether to lead with this picture or not. It's definitely a fun one. So this is one of our 2 docks at Andy Adams Reservoir in Layton. That's a 50-acre reservoir, one of our largest community fisheries. Actually, I'm sorry, it's 30 acres. These docks are part of another project. They were mined from Jordan L. State Park back in 2016. The hope was to get about 10 years of use out of them. We got 8. They got a little bit banged up with ice here, and then the buoys are starting to come off. I actually did some pretty hard research looking at different contractors, and I found one out of Idaho that will basically lift both docks off where they're at, bring them into shore, place brand new buoys on them, which should get them a lot of new life, dig in new pylons, and the whole shebang for about $8,000. So rather than having to buy 2 new docks there, we get to just refurbish these ones, and they should be good for a lot longer. So that's that one. This is the Smith Park Pond project. Like the Central Region was talking about, we also usually incorporate habitat into this. Like I said, this is about a 110-foot long dock. Basically just forms the U from one part of the shore to the other, and there I am actually hanging some of those mossback structures below it. So those are ready to go as soon as the dock's completed, which should be within the next few months. And then I think you need to go to the documents for the one for Clearfield. And then rotate counterclockwise 90, and you should be there. Okay. So with Clearfield City, Steed Pond's been a long-standing community fishery that we've had. The city's been wanting to make some big improvements there. They passed a bond, so they've actually got a fairly big budget for this one. It's going to involve basically an aerator, new pavilions, walking path, a bridge, which actually helps connect with the, I believe it's the railroad trail, and then 3 docks overall, of which one of those is the only one that we're trying to pay for here. Do you want to go to the budget next? Okay, finance, pretty big project, but most of it is actually in kind. A lot of that has to do with what Clearfield City is putting into the big park upgrades and amenities there. As I was saying, Andy Adams, we're coming in about $8,000, and then to finish up the half of the Smith Park Pond dock in Far West, we're talking a little bit under $30,000. $75,000 is the quote that we've got for the new dock at the pond in Clearfield. We've got a pretty good contractor that we've done business with now for a few different projects. Not saying we're necessarily going to get that one, but we've got the dock design down pretty good now, where we're talking about a 30-foot gangway, 20 by 10 or 15 square at the end for fishing, usually using Trex or composite wood for durability, and just a pretty solid design that works out pretty well. So overall ask about $111,000, I believe, and then $479,000 for the total project. That's really all I have. Any questions?
Questions or thoughts?
I'm going to ask just because I don't know a lot about fish, but $24,000 for a fish cleaning station? What kind of fish cleaning station is it?
No, that's a good question. That's what Clearfield City has budgeted for it. One thing that I can say, having dealt with fish cleaning stations over the years here and there, is there's a difference between a cheap fish cleaning station and a good fish cleaning station that can handle everything that's thrown at it. So you get the cheap one and you're fixing it more often than not, and it gets plugged. If you get a good one, like perhaps the $24,000 kind, it's not going to break down as often. So,
but it's Clearfield paying for it, right?
Yes, they are. Yeah. So that's just their estimate that they gave me thus far. So
We're talking an industrial grade disposal unit that can chop up bones.
Blake, that's exactly right. Like we've looked at ones called the muffin masher, where they're just throwing catfish skulls and salmon in them, and yeah. That's the intent. So, and the catfish we stock in this program are pretty large, so being able to handle that's good. So, yeah.
So just a comment on your budget. A lot of the items that are in the in-kind column, I think, belong in the through other column. So basically, anything that the city is purchasing belongs in the through other, and then if they're using their own employees for labor, that's where the in-kind comes.
Okay. I can go ahead and modify that.
I just want to give them proper credit for actually putting real dollars into the project.
Okay.
Other questions on this one? Okay, do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Okay, got a motion from Blake and a second from Drew. All in favor say aye. Any opposed, say no. Okay, motion passes. Okay, we have one more project.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yep. 7543. Shane, it's your swan song. Northern Region Riparian Restoration FY26.
Ironically, this is another one I'll probably be taking advantage of the funds for my next job too. So yeah, so a little change. This is usually presented by someone from the Division of Wildlife, or proposed by someone from the Division of Wildlife. There's in the documents, there's a presentation too. But we kind of changed that up and had the folks at Burke doing it instead, the Beaver Ecology and Relocation Center Collaborative at USU. Kind of thought maybe that'd be best for going forward if they want to, they probably know what they need more than I do or anyone from the division might do to get what they need to done. So, and that way if staff changes don't really matter. They can keep presenting no matter who's in my position. So this presentation is more of a kind of like an update from last year, what we accomplished with Burke and other people around the state. There were 44 beavers that were captured and released at 16 different sites, or I guess release events, 10 sites. So we went back to some sites twice and released them there. Next. What we have planned is similar to what you saw in other presentations today, to do some more living with beaver strategies, because we understand the need to kind of mitigate the nuisance that beavers can cause in areas where we release them. So we want to be prepared to handle any problems that may come up after our releases, or even help landowners or land managers to help them how to deal with it, so they can keep the beavers on the landscape and get the benefit from them, but while not having the deleterious effects on infrastructure. As part of this plan, Nate Norman at Burke is planning on doing some trapping training for both agency folks and the other outside organizations, people who want to come and help learn how to live trap, so that we can kind of have people all over the place that can help get beavers, bring them to us. Another cool new thing that's happened in this year is Burke was able to acquire a grant for $100,000 for 2-year study to kind of hone in on what makes a good release site. So they're going to go and look at release sites, previous and future release sites, and look at the vegetation around the area and like, was it successful or not? And so they can determine, give us some insight on where to release them, so we're as effective as possible. So that's a 2-year study, and that's part of what they'll be doing. Next. So part of this program will be, like I said, doing some living with beaver strategies. This is another one of those culvert exclusion fences, or beaver deceiver, whatever you want to call it, that we installed this past winter in the Uintas. And this was actually a spot where we did release beavers with the Forest Service, and a landowner eventually had a beaver issue. And so instead of instead of encouraging him to trap it, whether live or lethal, we went out there to kind of fix the problem so that hopefully they can coexist. Next. Big part of this, without live trapping, we don't have beavers. So a lot of the funds we're asking for go to help maintain Burke, their staff, so that they can be out responding to calls and trapping, and as well as training others in doing it. Next. Yeah, so as mentioned, there's a quarantine process. This is the check-in. They've been working with volunteers from around Cache Valley. There's students coming in. We've recently started partnering with Utah so that we could maybe have a facility to hold beavers long-term if they're maybe not in a state that we want to release them in. That is ongoing. We have an agreement with them for some money that we received from Habitat Council last year to build an exclosure that will house the beavers. It's still in the works. We are asking for more for that because their fundraising ventures didn't quite pan out as they hoped, but they're still looking for money, and so we're seeing if we can get some more help to make that happen. Next. And then the fun part is just we go out and release, and we release on private, public land. There's a lot of private, the news is getting out there, as you know. At the end of this, there's a picture of Mike Rowe from Dirty Jobs, who came out and went through this whole process with them. So the news is getting out there. It's getting more and more popular. More and more people want beavers on their property. So we have a list of private landowners that want beavers, and so if you want them, you have to get on a waiting list now. Next. And yeah, as I mentioned, the monitoring aspect is new to this, but I think it'll kind of pay in dividends in the future for the whole state. Next. This one looks like up Temple Fork, maybe Logan Canyon. I'm not 100% certain on that, but
That's a beaver apartment.
yeah. If you want to go see beavers, Temple Fork is, if you're in the area, that's where people go to beaver watch. Next. Yeah. And yeah, there's that picture of Mike Rowe. And that's just one of many instances where we've gotten a lot of publicity. We were also on a new CBC, Canadian broadcast. They recently put out a documentary that we were on, and it was highlighting this work for a landowner in southern Idaho. Yeah, and so what we're asking for is right here. Bulk of it is for, I guess not the bulk, about half of it is for just operation and management at USU. They like to hire a student to do seasonal work, give them a truck if they can, to assist, to respond to calls quickly and help move beavers around the state. And this is where I'm paying myself, asking for money for myself here, my new jobs. Sageland wants to get more involved with this and doing beaver coexistence strategies and relocations. So it'd be good to have another partner to kind of respond outside of Cache Valley. And then another 20,000 is what we're asking for Utah to make that happen. And I think it sounds like a big ask for that, but I think it's outreach. I think more so than anything, that's a good place to kind of to get people more interested in outreach and beavers, somewhere to take people who are curious about what we're doing and why we're doing it. The zoo has been really excited to do it, and they do have money. They're contributing, just not as much as they were hoping for at this time. And that's about it. Any questions? I do know there are a couple beavers that will be here at 4 o'clock. If you want good timing, so if you want to go and see them while they're on their way. They came from South Jordan, went to Logan. Now they're
Are
going
they
back.
stopping here?
What?
Are they stopping here?
Yeah, they're stopping here. Ginger's grabbing them.
Hmm.
There was a little question on like their status, so Ginger's checking them out.
Ginger is our veterinarian.
I'm sorry, yeah. She's the one bringing them, I believe.
Yes, if you want to wait here till 4 with us, then you can.
Okay, questions?
I'm just curious. I did see some sites on the north slope. Are you guys moving into northeastern region at all, or is that a possibility?
We don't plan to. It's a possibility. I know Northeast region doesn't quite have a program like this going for them. Is that you don't
It
want
might
me to
be,
go in there, or
it might be a good substitute for this USU group if they're willing to go that far. I don't know. I'm just trying to figure out ways to get a program like this into the northeastern region.
Yeah, those are Forest Service sites. We have the Mountain View Evanston district has a lot of sites that they're wanting to get beavers into, and that's where we had the release and then a nuisance problem that we dealt with. Well, that's
Be moving them.
yeah, I don't know.
Okay, other questions or comments? All right.
I'll move to accept it.
Okay. Do I have a second? All right. Got a motion from Randy and I got a second from Drew. All in favor say aye. Any opposed say no. Okay, motion passes.
Thank you.
Thanks, Shane. Okay, that is it for our agenda today. Our next meeting, well, maybe I'll say, yeah, the next meeting that is relevant to what we do here is the conservation permit meeting on April 2nd. And then our next Habitat Council meeting that's big game focused is the 9th. I will say, for both those meetings in my stead, Danny Summers will be the acting Habitat Section Chief. I will be out of the country. I've been called up by the military. No, I haven't. No. Not at all. I'll be in Italy, I'll be honest. So, and we tried to make sure everything was going to get scheduled outside of that. It just didn't happen. So Danny Summers has done this before. He knows the routine. And so he's going to handle both the ECP meeting for me, for my part, and then that Habitat Council meeting. And then for our final Habitat Council meeting, I'll be back in the spot. So anyway, that's my schedule on that. So if you don't have involvement with the ECP meeting, I would encourage you to go and check it out. It's an amazing time to see what groups and what money they put on projects all across the state. You know, a lot of it's these projects, a lot of it's other projects for WRI, a lot of it's migration initiative, research. It's an amazing day, and it's a big win for Habitat on that day. So that's my plug for that meeting. What did I forget, Daniel?
My plan is to try to get you guys out an agenda next week. There's going to be a lot of overlap with that conservation permit meeting and our big game meeting, so I'm going to send it out. There may be some last minute adjustments that we'll need to do after that conservation permit meeting, so there may be some adjustments to it, but I'll get an initial one out to you guys next week, so you have time to review.
Our next round of habitat management plans to review, Danny, that'll be will be the big game meeting or the final meeting? Okay, so in the final budget meeting is when you'll see any additional plans, which probably will include Cinnamon Creek. We already did that one. That's right. Southern region, Swan Creek.
Can
Okay.
we just see that the Habitat Council spreadsheet?
Okay, so maybe explain for everybody what's
What do
here.
you want to see, Tyler? You want to see the dollar amounts?
The totals. See if everybody's in the red or not. So sport is the one who's not in the red.
I think that's where we started last year too. It was the only one that was not in the red starting out.
This has the updated amount that we're allowed to spend, the appropriation for this year. It's been updated, so.
Yeah. So about that, we received news this week that our yearly amount of money that comes into Habitat Council is right around 2.8 million. And we received word that we got that amount of money came in. Our appropriation that we can actually spend out of the Habitat account every year is 3.4 million, but we just can't exceed what is in the account. But there's still about 700 grand left in that account. So we'll be able to spend up to the 3.4 million. And so we'll plan to do that.
One clarification on these amounts, we don't have the big game dollar amounts in here yet, so you'll likely see that number jump up
You
quite
don't
a
have
bit.
that agenda. There's still big game numbers in there.
Correct.
You don't have the conservation permit amount.
The big game agenda dollar amounts are not in there yet.
Okay. Okay, any other questions on budget? Like I say, we'll review a lot of this, that last meeting. A lot of things will change between now and then, depending on what happens at the conservation permit meeting. So. Okay, if there's no other questions, no other business, do I have a motion to adjourn? Okay, we have a motion to adjourn. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.